that has been focused on the back of the rising tensions in the Middle East. Oil prices fell over 7% from the previous session after Trump announced a ceasefire timeline between Israel and Iran, referring to the conflict as the 12-day war. Now, the drop followed a weekend escalation in which the U.S. struck Iranian nuclear sites, prompting a retaliatory attack on American bases in Qatar. However, Iran avoided targeting the critical Strait of Hormuz, helping ease fears of a broader disruption to the global oil supplies. My colleague Ashesha is joining in with the details of that.
Well, yes, after the solid uptick that we have seen in the last few trading sessions, Brent Crude has now fallen again to that $69 per barrel mark. It is down nearly 4% today. It was down 7.5% in yesterday's trading session as well. And from the recent highs of about $79 per barrel, which we hit a few days ago, it is now down a solid 13%. And remember, Brent Crude is again at that June 12 level that was a day prior to the conflict between Israel and Iran began. So that's the kind of decline that we've seen once again in Brent crude prices because of the latest statement that came in from US President Donald Trump, where he announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, although there are reports which suggest that perhaps Iran has gone ahead and rejected these claims of ceasefire. But for the moment, oil markets are rejoicing, and we are seeing Brent crude falling below that $70 per barrel mark. Now remember, there were fears that if Iran goes ahead and blocks the Strait of Hormuz, which is an important waterway that transports 1/5 of world oil consumption, perhaps oil supply could be disrupted and oil prices could inch even higher. So on the back of these issues, perhaps we were seeing that kind of uptick in oil prices. But now, because of Donald Trump's tweet across social media platforms, which suggests that a ceasefire agreement has been signed between the two countries, we are seeing that big fall in the oil market, and Brent crude is now below that $70 per barrel mark, down 4% today after a 7% decline that we saw in yesterday's trading session.
Well, thank you so much for that update on the energy pack, Ashesha. Taking it here from and talking about the U.S. markets. Well, overnight we did see volatile moves, but stock futures did rise after Trump says there is a ceasefire timeline for Israel and Iran conflict. Stock futures did rose on Monday night after the announcement coming in from Donald Trump, where futures did tie Dow Jones Industrial Average did add around 185 points, to be precise, around 0.5%, while S&P futures gained around 0.5%, while Nasdaq futures did rose around 1%. Stock futures took a leg higher after President Donald Trump's announcement, and also considering the levels of all the three indices, be it the Dow, S&P as well as the Nasdaq. There were volatile moves, but in particular futures did see a sigh of relief, of course, after the announcement which came in on Truth Social by the Trump administration, in particular by Donald Trump. Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate futures were also down in extended trading, slipping more than around 3%. So energy pack, natural gas as well as crude oil prices is something we need to consider. The three major averages rose in the regular session as investors appear to look past Iran's retaliatory strike on the U.S. military base in Qatar. That was another announcement and an event, an economic indicator of action, which made some sort of impact on the global markets. Qatar's defense ministry said that its air defense has intercepted the attack. The Dow did rose nearly 375 points, while S&P added around 0.5% to 1% if you see the overnight cues, while the indices were ending, and the Nasdaq also gained around 1%. So clearly, the U.S. markets did see a positive momentum in the last trading session overnight, as well as the implied open from the GIFT Nifty showing positive signs, and the Asian markets also showing some signs of positivity to start with. So the global setup overall looks positive, Ankita.
Absolutely, Mansi. On the back of those cues coming in, at least for now, there is a breather coming in on U.S. markets as well.